Next, I'd like to invite Markus Brinkmeier to the stage from UnionPay. The interesting thing is I have no idea what Markus is going to be talking about. It's a bit of a surprise for everyone. So it is your responsibility,
It's a
kind
suspense,
sir,
right?
to delight and entertain us.
Okay, I'll do my very best, I hope. Good morning. My name is Markus, and indeed what I want to talk to you about today is the rise of mobile payments in China. I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm getting the impression that there is literally no payment convention left, where sooner or later this topic is coming up. I'm always getting the impression that there are basically two dates that have been significant. The first one was sometime in the 7th century, when in China the first banknotes were introduced. And the second one then is the rise of the mobile payments, or the mobile payments entering the stage some 4 years ago. So the question is, was there really nothing in between? That would also mean that everybody coming from China obviously has been traveling with suitcases full of money, full of these banknotes. If you then imagine where Chinese shoppers or why Chinese tourists like to shop, Louis Vuitton and something like that, then they need to have really large suitcases bringing all their cash over here, wouldn't they? Well, maybe there was something in between. And indeed there was, because China is also having most of the cards issued in the world. So there is more than 1 billion cardholders in China itself. All of them have more than just one card. So yeah, there was something in between. In 2002, the Chinese regulator decided that banks wishing to give their customers a card payment opportunity should all adhere to one standard. The standard was then called UnionPay, or China UnionPay to be exact. And it was organized pretty much like Visa Europe used to be, so a membership organization, all the banks, all the issuing banks becoming members and issuing cards. With more than 1 billion cardholders, sooner or later, they will also leave their own country and they will look, where can I pay with my cards? So it is no surprise that this, let's call it local debit scheme, at some point in time actually became an international payment scheme. So there are a few numbers here. We will not go into them. But maybe more important or more interesting to you, also in Europe, China UnionPay has been active under the name of UnionPay International, as it has been called since 2012. So right now we're looking at about more than 3 million merchants accepting UnionPay in 40 European countries. UnionPay has been present here in Europe for more than a decade, which resulted in these numbers. So, but let's have a look back at the Chinese market. Obviously, as I've said, it is a huge market. Alone in 4 years, electronic payments have grown 9-fold. In the last quarter, according to the statistics of the Chinese Central Bank, there have been more than 55 billion bank card transactions in the 3rd quarter of 2018. So no surprise, China is having more than 1,000 banks. They're all running card programs. So we are looking at thousands of different payment card products that are available there for cardholders, for the card users. With the continuing growth, it will surprise nobody that the first victim of the digital society, and I will talk later about what I mean by that, has actually been cash, because cash is really withdrawing from the market there. A few more numbers. They're completely mind-blowing, I have to admit that, but these are the official numbers of the People's Bank of China. So regardless how you look at it, you can see that there is a reason why there has been so much talk also here about mobile payments. And that is that mobile payments have managed to grab over the last years 20 to 25%, depending on how you want to look at the figures, of the market for payments there. So I would say that is really a success story. So we will look now a little bit into, okay, how has that all happened? Why has there been such a success story? And why could it expand so dramatically? China is having more than 1.5 billion registered cell phones. Most of them, obviously, are smartphones today. We have seen an increase of 75% almost in 1 year if it comes to mobile payments. I think the number that you're seeing here, the $45 trillion for mobile payments in 2020, that would mean that the growth that we've seen before on the slides is actually slowing down. So I'm not really 100% sure it will take that long to reach the 45 trillion mark. Active mobile payment users. So currently, there are no really reliable figures, but what the big players are publishing there is suggesting that there are 400 to 500 million mobile payment users as of today. Okay, so where are we in Europe in comparison to that? Because ultimately, I want to see if what we are seeing in China as a development is something that will also be happening here, that will affect us all over the next years. We have 1 billion credit cards or bank cards issued here in Europe. And there is no real, let's set aside in a couple of countries like Germany, for example, there is no real competition. So pretty much everything is based on cards, right? I think one thing that we need to keep in mind is that we have a very long tradition and that our whole ecosystem and our whole infrastructure is really built around and for card payments. So when have we introduced terminals? That was, I don't know, 30 years ago, 25 years ago. EMV, NFC payments. The 10th birthday of NFC also has long passed. And today we are still at only 30%, roughly, of NFC transactions in our total business here. So what does it mean, or what happened in China? So what is different there, or what really has been driving the development there? I think there are a couple of things here. First of all, if you look into the market, I've said it before, there are some big players, some very, very big players. The whole mobile payment have been driven basically by two companies who currently capture about 90% of all mobile payments in China. I think the key, however, really is the end consumer, so the consumer behavior. As colleagues of me are saying, well, here in Europe, you go online to shop, or you go online to book something, to book a cab, to book a restaurant, to book something. In China, we live online, so we do everything online. I sometimes have the impression that really the target there is to have a screen time of at least 18 hours on a daily basis. So obviously, this is quite a difference. And so people really have been looking to, okay, what can I do to pay without putting my smartphone aside? At the same time, there has also been a development, or actually the incumbents have done a very good job in opening up the market for competition. Because if you're a merchant, if you're a small merchant in China, then you would really find out it can be quite tricky and difficult to get a card acceptance contract, to get a terminal, to get all that. If you're going into the Chinese bank branch, one of the things that you will be seeing there is that they're having very nice waiting areas. So they're having a leather couch there. It's really comfortable to sit there, and that's a good thing because they will make you sit there. And by the time that you have filled all the 20 forms and all of them have been chopped, and then taking into consideration how long it will take until you as a merchant will finally get your FPOS device into your shop, yeah, there is no surprise that merchants were jumping on a new proposition that was, oh yeah, you just go online, you give us your details. At the end of the whole process, you can print out a QR code, stick that on the wall in your shop, and you're all set, and you can accept electronic payments. So we've had the very, very big players, so the Alibabas, which is like a combination of eBay and Amazon on steroids, probably. They were propagating, obviously, this kind of payment. And at the same time, all these micropayments, all these very, very small shops, they as well, they jumped on it. And it was all really very, very convenient for the consumers because they got what they were actually looking at. So this is pretty much the landscape or the situation that we've seen there in China, which has been the foundation for the rise of electronic payments. So what does it mean for us? Where are the similarities? Obviously, the markets are different, and they are different in a way that the customer expectation seems to be very, very different. If we're looking at Europe, for example, looking into London, you can pretty much pay everywhere there with NFC. So, however, checking out at a supermarket, probably 1 in 20 is actually using Apple Pay or any other wallet to do the shopping there. In the underground, it's even less, but that is probably having different reasons. One of the first countries where Apple Pay was introduced in Europe was Switzerland. Switzerland is having, I think is having a share there of about 70%. Pretty much every terminal is supporting contactless payments, and even there, just looking at it doesn't really feel like this is where all of this is happening, where the wallets are really getting established. So unless somebody is really able to replicate what these Chinese players have had there, and that is I am the online shopping, instant messaging, cab booking, table reserving app, and I don't see something of these super apps here in Europe, I think it will be very, very difficult for anybody to do and to just imitate what has happened there in China. Probably the most important thing is what I was saying before. When we are looking at an ecosystem that has been built here in Europe over decades, then with today's technology, it seems relatively easy to say, okay, let's forget about all that. We're just building our own ecosystem from scratch. We don't take care of any kind of legacy there. That is working pretty well. It's working pretty well as long as I've said you really have a certain power inside the market itself, and as long as you're just talking about this one market. Because the moment you're leaving your ecosystem there in China and you're trying to pay with your wallet somewhere here in Europe, you will find out, oh yeah, it isn't that easy, and the merchants are not also waiting worldwide just to adopt a new payment method. That's at least our expectation. That's at least our experience. So I think in order really to be successful, and that is our assumption, you need to find a proposition that is really applicable all around the world. So you need to cooperate. You need to take existing technologies and existing infrastructures into consideration, find local partners, and then see that you're combining these two. So in that spirit, UnionPay has done is there's a UnionPay wallet that works in China based on QR codes, and in order to make it also compatible with international markets, it has included the NFC functionality. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Markus. Thank you.